So at the very end of last year, I announced that I was working on a new project called Smuggler's Odyssey, promising that more information was on the way. And, well, I guess this is that information. So then what is Smuggler's Odyssey? Well, anyone who's been keeping up with my channel for a while now will know that I made a few short films throughout 2023 and 2024. Smuggler's Odyssey is basically the next film I'll be making. It'll take place in the same universe as my last short film, The Asterocup, and feature the same main character. Though I wouldn't call it a sequel, since it's no longer a racing movie. See, the premise of this new film is that the smuggler's a guy's cargo once again gets stolen by space pirates. Only this time, he decides to actually chase off the space pirates with the help of a bounty hunter. Meanwhile, we also get to follow the story of the pirates who took the cargo, as they struggle under an oppressive leader, and as all this is happening, they of course travel between multiple different moons and planets in the solar system, hence the Odyssey in the title. Unlike my previous films, Smuggler's Odyssey will be feature-length, but I'll be making and releasing it in small chunks. I'll basically be making several short films that I then edit together into one long film. Anyway, that's all the information I can really give at this moment, but if you have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comments down below. By the way, I will still be making movie reviews even as I work on Smuggler's Odyssey. In fact, I'm working on one right now, but with the info dump out of the way, here's the director's commentary from my most recent short film, The Asterocup. So, the idea behind the Asterocup actually predates even the first short film I made. See, back in, I think it was like 2020 to 2021, I was playing F-Zero, actually, and I was just thinking, like, what if this was a short film? A sci-fi racing movie. But the idea never really went anywhere besides just a sci-fi action movie, or a sci-fi racing short film. But years later, after I had done the last part of the Pineapple Pizza Debate trilogy, I wanted to do something completely new. I wanted to try telling a slightly more serious story, not necessarily edgy or anything, but just something that was more than just intentionally ridiculous. And so I came back to that old idea I had for the racing movie. And the idea sort of developed from, the idea for what would become the Asterocup sort of developed from limitations, really. Because at first I was thinking like, well, let's have like an actual race, with a racetrack and all that. But then I realized, how the hell would I film a racetrack with miniatures without just building something the size of a house? And so I got the idea of, well, what if they were racing in space? Well, that's all the racetrack problem, but now we have the problem of, how we'll tell how fast they're going. Because like in space, there's no reference for how fast something is moving. Well, what if they were flying through asteroids? Because now, you can see how fast the asteroids are swooshing by when, they fly. And so from there, of course, I came up with the idea of a race in the rings of Saturn. And, the rest of the idea sort of developed from there. The Asterocup was originally meant to be an ensemble movie. Thinking kind of like, I don't know, Rat Race or Cannonball Run, those kind of racing films where there are multiple characters, all of which have the same screen time. But because this is a short film, I realized that there just wouldn't be enough time to elaborate on so many characters. And so the main character became a guy, because he was just the first character I came up with, a smuggler who lost his cargo and now needed to make the money back. And so the story sort of became about him. See, I'll just enter this race, win the 250 grand prize, which just so happens to be the amount you lost, and then I'll give the money to you. So you get your money, I get to live. What's not like?
Do you really think you can win a space race when you can't even fend off?
So you'll notice there that there's a screen in the background, which actually shows Pineapple Pizza Debate. And that was sort of my way of showing that this is a new universe, like, in this universe, Pineapple Pizza Debate, that's just a movie or something. Because I didn't want people to think that the Asterocup takes place in the same universe as Pineapple Pizza Debate, which is would be an easy mistake to make, given how everything these days is about cinematic universes and all that. Not to mention the style is very much similar in terms of cinematography and stuff. So Bill over here is actually a remnant of that old ensemble cast idea, because while trying to think of characters, I asked on a Discord server, does anyone have some cool ideas for characters that I can use? And one guy jokingly, Rick Dynamo actually, who was a voice actor in this, suggested Bill, who pays his taxes. And I just thought that idea was funny, so I kept it in the movie, or short film rather.
Look, I asked you to death, so do you mind if I enjoy my drink in peace?
Well, you better. For once you're done with the race, you ain't gonna try.
You might notice in the background that it's populated by us regular Bionicle sets. And, I couldn't animate or puppet those characters because, I only have 2 hands and those hands are busy puppeting the characters who are actually doing something. But I tried to pose the background characters to actually at least imply a story. Like, you'll notice that Onimar, for example, looks really surprised. So I think there is somewhere around here that Midali here mentions a war that he was a part of, and Ranar too. Now, this war will be a bit more significant in Smuggler's Odyssey, which I talked about earlier. But the funny thing about the war is that it was really just a throwaway way to give some depth to the world and characters. Like, why does Midali want to do the thing he does? Well, maybe there was a war and he didn't like being in a war, so now he tries to do something altruistic. So the fact that there was a war is very much just in the service of giving these characters a history. And just saying the word war, It's a simple word but has a lot of meaning, Because, war is a complex thing. So, yeah. I was never really happy with this racing scene, because, really, it's because of the buildings in background. I just couldn't get that to work, I guess. And also, earlier, when a guy was flying towards Algaro's tower, you could see a lot of fog and stuff. And I was gonna get some fog into this scene by basically just filming my smoke machine against a black background and then compositing it on top of this scene. But I just ran out of time with this, so that never happened.
The only one trying to help people here.
We're doing some medical thing, right? Can't you just get a job as a doctor or something?
I did, in a way. I was a medical.
So the purpose of this scene here is at least partly to actually build out in the audience. Because you'll notice that a guy is never in front, even though he's the main character. And that's because it's very common in pretty much every movie for the main character to eventually win at the end. And so, if there is a conflict, or if the main character is trying to achieve something, then I want to try to make sure that the audience actually doubts that he will do it, because that builds tension. If you know he'll succeed, and then he succeeds, well, it's like, oh, okay, so exactly what I thought would happen, happened. But if you think, oh, there's no way he'll succeed, and then he does succeed, well, then all of a sudden you have tension, because, the audience wants something to happen, but they don't expect it, But, and so by making it so that a guy, fails here, that his failure now becomes believable. The possibility of failure is believable. If that makes sense. It also just helps to build up character dynamics. Like Ranar here is very, Ranar here is very much a bad guy because he did a bad thing. And so there's a reason to not root for him, but instead root for these two.
What happened to your ship?
Some guy crashed into the side of it. Deliberately, might I add. Think you can fix it before tomorrow evening?
Of course.
This scene here was also just very kind of an afterthought, just added to explain who Nemlos was, so that when he appears in the race later, you like have some background. Because that's something I want to do. I want every racer to have at least some background, even if it's no longer an ensemble movie. Like a guy, we know who that is. Nemlos, he's the guy we just met. Midali, he's the doctor, one in the thing. Ranar, he's just in it for sport. So, yeah. This character here, you'll notice he has a particularly long neck. And that's because I realized that his arm and neck, those were basically the only things that were gonna be visible on him. His upper body. And so I made his neck extra long so that I could, emote with it more. So to make it more expressive. Oh, and also fun fact, the background right now is actually the same piece of scenery that was used in the Nemlos scene previously, only painted yellow. And that scenery was also used in the Algaro scene near the beginning. When a guy is confronting the people there in the bar. This is another scene I'm not really pleased with, because, just look at it. It looks terrible. None of this film necessarily looks amazing, but this is definitely one of the worst looking shots. If I were to remake this short film today, then the main thing I would just do is just add some movement to the characters when they're sitting in the cockpit. Like, this is a video, but it just looks like a still image because they're not moving. So, yeah. Maybe even just add some camera shake to give some life to it. But, yeah.
May the 3rd annual Asterocup begin in 3, 2, 1, go!
So, right here, I decided to immediately kill off Nemlos here, because, that shows instantly that there's real danger in this race. The danger isn't just will I win or not, the danger here is will they survive or not. And you'll also see here that Midali, who so far has been established as a somewhat important character, is now about to just die. And that's because I like killing off characters in my stories, because that they create stakes, It's basically saying to the audience, you should be afraid because I can actually do the real things to these characters. I think we can all think of like a dozen examples of fake out deaths in movies and whatnot, and so, and in general, the main character almost always wins. And so it's like, why should I believe the character is in danger if he never succumbs to that danger? Well, here you see that, yeah, the characters do actually die. There's no guarantee for any of these characters that they will survive. And so that creates tension, because now we're like, well, will they actually survive? The other characters die, so why should this guy survive, It's not a given anymore, and that, I think, just creates a bigger reaction.
Only 2 races remain now. Will a guy be able to retake the lead?
Sir, we just barely possess high enough acceleration to potentially take the lead. However, it will require near perfect flying.
No, this isn't right.
What's this? First he gave up the lead, and now he's done a couple...
I was gonna have a shot of him, like the announcer here, or sportscaster, whatever you wanna call him, fills in a lot of gaps that were supposed to be done with special effects. You know, like when a guy gives up the lead, I was gonna have a shot of him actually turning around, but nothing really became of that because I just couldn't get it to work, you know. And that's probably one of my big regrets with this short film, that a lot of crucial shots just aren't in the movie. When I made this specific scene here, I discovered a new technique of a way to basically color shadows. Like, you have a main light source, right? But then you have a much weaker colored light source, in this case purple, and that makes it so that the main characters don't turn purple. But the parts that are on a shadow, those turn purple, and so now you have a more colorful image. Also, the reason Bill, who pays his taxes, wins is because I didn't want a guy to win, because I think it's just more interesting if he loses, you know, for story reasons and all that. But I wanted whoever won, you know, I wanted to still be someone that, you know, would actually resonate and mean something to the audience. You know, like if Nemlos would have won, they would be like, oh, okay, who cares? But Bill, who pays his taxes, the concept of his character is so ridiculous that I feel like most people just like him for that reason. And in fact, from what I can gather, people actually do like him. And so I decided to have him win, so that when he then wins, you know, it actually means something to the audience too. You know, it's not just some random other character winning. It's someone they at least somewhat are at least somewhat interested in.
Business for an hour.
Oh, but they will be.
Are you threatening me?
Not yet, but yet.
I wanted a guy to have a character arc of not giving into emotions. Like, the reason he even gets into the thing that sets up this story is that, you know, his cargo gets stolen. But, you know, he could very easily escape the pirates, but he decided to engage them anyway, and that's what gets the cargo stolen. And the only reason he does that is because he gets mad at them. And then later in this race, you know, he gets mad at Ranar and tries to kill him. But then he's like, no, I'm not gonna do that. And so he saves Ranar, and even though he loses the race, he now, you know, he wins anyway. You know, Ranar helps him out because he helped Ranar. I don't know how well that message gets across, considering that the reason Ranar needed saving is because of a guy, but, you know, still, it's something. Ultimately, a limitation of these short films is that it's hard to make character arcs because they're either natural and thus don't accomplish much because they short run time, or they're rushed because, again, the short run time. So an interesting note about the music here. All the music was used, you know, like it says here, from the YouTube Studio Sound Library. Which, you know, it's fine, it works, but when I make Smuggler's Odyssey, I hope to be able to just commission original music instead. Because, for one, it's just easier to make the music actually fits what's happening if, you know, just make the music for that purpose from the beginning. But also, I feel that the problem with stock music is that I'm not the only one using stock music. A lot of people use stock music. And so what the result is that, you know, if you watch Smuggler's Odyssey and you hear, I don't know, say, some random song in the background, you know, that's fine and good, but then, if you already heard that song, then instead of thinking about the scene in this movie, just be thinking, oh, I recognize that, that piece of music. Like I myself, you know, I'll be watching YouTube and I'll be hearing a song that I used in one of my short films, and instead of thinking about that video, I'll be thinking, oh, that's a song I used in the movie. And that, of course, is a problem, because, you know, it distracts from what you're trying to show. If I'm showing this movie and the movie makes people think about other things, well, then they're not thinking about the movie anymore. I don't really know if I should end it here or something. Can't really think of anything else to say, but yeah, that's the Asterocup for you. I I hope this little audio commentary was insightful, that you learned something, that you cared about it, that didn't just bore you, but yeah, thank you for watching and for listening, because it's really what the main point of this sort of thing, isn't it? But yeah, see ya.